When most people start a weight loss journey, they are glued to the scale. They check the mirror every single morning. They measure their waistline. While those things matter and they are important, they only tell part of the story. You know what the real story is and the real change? The kind that saves your heart, reverses your diabetes risk, and lowers inflammation. And this change is happening on the inside long before you see it on the outside. And the best way to measure that change is your blood work. That's why today I'm going to walk you through the inflammatory markers and insulin resistance labs you should be checking as you lose weight, especially the visceral fat, the stubborn belly fat that drives chronic disease. I will explain what each test means, how often to check it, and how it ties into your healing process. And by the end of this video, you will know exactly how to track your body's recovery, not only your body's size. Let's start with inflammation. Inflammation is your body's alarm system. It is supposed to help you heal when you get injured or when you're trying to fight an infection. But when the alarm system never shuts off, when it becomes chronic, it can damage your arteries, your joints, even your brain. And one of the biggest drivers of chronic inflammation, you know what it is your visceral fat. The fat that sits around your organs. This fat is not just sitting there. It is alive, it is active, and it's releasing inflammatory chemicals called cytokines and interleukins. And these chemicals keep your body in a constant simmer. That's why belly fat is not just a cosmetic problem. It is a metabolic and inflammatory problem. So what do we measure to see if that inflammation is coming down as we lose weight? Number one, the most practical test is high sensitivity C-reactive protein, or for short, hs-CRP. This comes from the liver, and it rises when your body is inflamed. When you lose visceral fat, the CRP going way down, sometimes dramatically. Number two, you will be surprised, is ferritin. Most people know ferritin as an iron storage protein, but ferritin is also an acute phase reactant, meaning it rises in inflammation. If your iron levels look normal, but your ferritin is high, that could be inflammation speaking. Number three is white blood cell count. This is another indirect marker. Even within the normal range, higher counts often signal background inflammation. These three things are easy, accessible tests to measure, but we don't stop here. If you want a deeper look, there are advanced markers that tell you even more. Number one, apolipoprotein B or ApoB. This measures the actual number of LDL particles swimming in your blood. Not just how much cholesterol they are carrying, but how many of those atherogenic bullets are floating through your arteries. Lower is better. ApoB is especially helpful if you are insulin resistant, because LDL cholesterol could look normal while ApoB is still high. Number two is oxidized LDL. This test shows how much of your LDL is getting damaged by oxidative stress. Visceral fat and inflammation raises oxidized LDL. And that's the kind that sticks to your blood arterial wall more aggressively. Number three is homocysteine. This is an amino acid that when elevated signals oxidative stress and inflammation and endothelial damage. It can also point to deficiencies in folic acid, B12, or B6. Number four is lipoprotein A or LP-A. This is genetic. But if it is high, your lifetime risk for vascular disease is very high, no matter what. You can't lower it much with lifestyle, but knowing it helps you to gauge how aggressively to manage the other markers. And then there is the fat hormones, leptin and adiponectin. Leptin is high in obesity, telling the brain that we have plenty of stores of energy stored. But the brain stops listening, and that's called leptin resistance. As your visceral fat drops, leptin level normalizes. Adiponectin, though, does the opposite. It rises when your insulin sensitivity improves. Watching this ratio change is one of the clearest signs your fat loss is actually improving your metabolism. Now here's one of my favorite overlooked markers, the omega-6 to omega-3 ratio. So your body needs both, but our modern diet has gone way off balance. Most people eat a ratio of 15 to 1, 15 times more omega-6 fats than omega-3s. That ratio is inflammatory. It drives the fire inside. What you want is closer to 2 or 3 to 1. And you can measure this. Labs will show you omega-3 index, which is the amount of EPA and DHA, the anti-inflammatory omega-3, in your red blood cell membranes. A good number is 8% or higher. Under 4% is risky. Another ratio is AA to EPA ratio, sometimes called the omega delta. That tells you how much pro-inflammatory arachidonic acid, the AA, you have compared to the anti-inflammatory EPA. Lower ratios means less fire, more balance. And here's the beauty. When you cut back on seed oils high on omega-6 and you raise your intake of fatty fish, shea, flax, walnuts, your omega ratio shifts. That's a measurable anti-inflammatory win during weight loss. Now, let's connect this to insulin resistance. Insulin resistance is when your cells stop listening to the insulin signal. Your pancreas pumps out more and more insulin just to keep your blood sugar normal. You can have totally normal fasting glucose and still be insulin resistant. And visceral fat is one of the biggest drivers for insulin resistance. That's why weight loss is not just about size, it's about restoring insulin sensitivity. The most important one is fasting insulin. This should be ideally under 10 or closer to 5 is even better. High insulin with normal glucose means your pancreas is training to keep you afloat. Combining fasting insulin and glucose and you can calculate HOMA-IR, which is a simple score of insulin resistance. You can also add hemoglobin A1C, which shows your 3-month average of your blood sugar. Unfortunately, it won't catch the earliest insulin resistance, but it tracks progress over time. And don't forget lipids. High triglycerides and low HDL are classic red flags of insulin resistance. In fact, your triglyceride to HDL ratio is one of the simplest ways to spot metabolic syndrome. So here's the question: how often should you test these? At the start of your weight loss journey, get a baseline: CRP, fasting insulin, glucose, A1C, triglyceride, HDL, ApoB, ferritin, white blood cell count, and your omega-3 index if you can. Then check again at 3 months. That's long enough to see real changes in visceral fat and insulin sensitivity. Repeat every 3 to 6 months depending on how intensive your journey is. Once you stabilize, yearly checks may be enough. Remember, the scale might say you lost 10 pounds, but your labs might say you cut your inflammation in half, dropped your insulin resistance, and restored your metabolic health. That's the real progress. Here is what you will see when things are working in your favor. CRP down, triglyceride down, HDL up, fasting insulin down, sometimes even before your glucose even changes, and ApoB down, omega-3 index up, and your leptin-adiponectin ratio shifts in your favor. That's your body healing from the inside out. What lowers inflammation and insulin resistance? Number one, nutrition. Cut refined carbs and added sugars. Swap seed oils for olive oil, nuts, avocados, and fatty fish. Number two, exercise. Aerobic activity lowers CRP. Resistance training improves glucose uptake, while high-intensity intervals do both. Number three is sleep. Even 1 week of poor sleep can raise CRP and make a healthy person look pre-diabetic. Number four is stress management. Chronic stress keeps your cortisol high, fuels your belly fat, and worsens insulin resistance. And of course, quit smoking, limit alcohol intake, and focus on sustainable fat loss, not crash dieting. So here's the truth. Losing weight is not just about shrinking your waistline. It is about lowering the silent fire of inflammation and reversing insulin resistance. You can track this, you can measure this, you can see your body healing in black and white on your blood work. So don't just ask, what is my weight? What is my waistline? Ask, what is my CRP, my fasting insulin, my omega-3 index, my ApoB? Because those numbers will tell you if you are just getting thinner or if you're truly getting healthier. If this video gave you a new perspective, hit like, subscribe, and share it with someone who is struggling with weight loss. And tell me in the comments below, which of these markers have you checked before? And which one are you most curious to track next? Because the real story of weight loss is not just told on the scale, it is told in your blood work. And that story is worth knowing. Thank you so much for listening. Have a great day. Bye-bye.